You're not supposed to be here. The Black Hawk's rotors scream above your head as you cut low across the jagged ridgelines of eastern Afghanistan. Your fingers clench the cyclic and collective, sweat streaking beneath your helmet, heart sink to every beat of the engine. Dust pelts the windshield like shrapnel. Below, the jagged terrain opens into a narrow valley, perfect for an ambush, and yet you fly straight into it. There's a reason they picked you for this evac run. Not because they believe in you, but because every other pilot claimed to be unavailable. Even now, the crew chief behind you doesn't speak unless it's clipped and necessary. The side gunner is newer, too green to know the rumors. The co-pilot, he won't even meet your eye. Because you're not just a woman flying a combat mission. You're a black woman flying a combat mission. In a unit where they spat your name like it tasted wrong. You were the diversity hire, the publicity pilot. When they joked in the mess hall, it wasn't with you. But jokes don't fly helicopters, and neither does hate. You do. You bank left tight hard, so hard the gunner swears. The target zone appears like a ghost from the haze. 2 injured Marines bleeding out near a burning MRAP. The ground fire begins, snap, crackle, rip, but you're steady. You've done this too many times, even when they said you'd never make it past simulation. One of the Marines is already unconscious. You can see blood blooming through his fatigues. The medics scramble and you hold her steady, praying the tail rotor doesn't eat a round. A round hits the windshield. Spider crack. Still, you hold. You don't breathe until they're strapped in and the green light flashes. The gunner screams, "Go!" and you lift out, almost vertical, the tail shuddering under strain. The whole thing might shake apart, and still you climb. Because you're not flying for stripes. You're flying for them. That night at base, there's no celebration. The mission went flawlessly. Your maneuver even made the feed. But in the debrief, the captain calls it aggressive. Someone jokes about your luck. Later in the rec tent, a tech hands you a note from command. No commendation, just a directive: rotate stateside for evaluation. You stare at it long. Evaluation? They don't say it, but it's there. You were too calm under fire, too precise, too good. And that's not what they were expecting. You probably won't survive this, the endless tests, the double standards, the whispering. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Post your city and your local time in the comments. I want to know who's flying with us. The funny part? You never wanted glory. You just wanted the sky. You're 8 years old, barefoot in the field behind your grandmother's house in Yazoo City, Mississippi. The sky is a thunderstorm of oranges and purples, and you're lying in the grass with a school library book about Amelia Earhart. Your cousin runs past, teasing, "You know black girls don't fly planes." You don't answer. You're too busy tracing cloud lines with your finger, whispering lift and drag like magic spells. Your grandmother watches from the porch. She doesn't stop your cousin. Doesn't stop you either. She knows better than anyone. The world's rules don't bend easy. But you've got a thing for wind resistance. Fast forward, 7th grade, you sign up for the science fair with a project on wing dynamics. Your teacher, Mr. Trustdale, says, "Are you sure? That's pretty complicated. You might be happier doing weather or water filters." Your mom fights to get your project approved. He relents. You win 2nd place. The paper certificate hangs over your bed next to a calendar from the Tuskegee Airmen Museum. You don't know it yet, but that combination, scientific curiosity and raw defiance, is going to fuel every damn thing you do. High school brings AFJROTC. Your uniform is always too long, shoes too tight, and the stares you get during flag detail aren't just about your gender. At drill competitions, adults nod at the boys and say, "Future airmen." When you walk past, it's silence or skepticism. And then it happens. Senior year. A recruiter from the Air Force Academy visits your school. You sit in the front row, notebook open. He starts the talk, glossing over the numbers, the traditions, the jets. When he opens for questions, you raise your hand and ask, "What's the pathway to becoming a helicopter pilot through the academy?" He pauses. "Well, most girls who go that route stick to logistics or medevac, very technical fields." "I want combat airlift," you say. Another pause. He smiles, but it's the kind of smile that lands like a door closing. Later, you hear him talking to your principal. "She's driven, but that kind of path isn't realistic for, well, you know." You do know, that's why you apply anyway. You get in. Freshman year at the academy is no montage of inspiration. It's long, punishing runs. It's upperclassmen barking in your face. It's white cadets making jokes about hair inspections. It's male cadets treating you like a fluke, like your acceptance letter was a clerical error. But it's also late nights in the flight simulator. It's acing your flight theory final. It's the first time your instructor says, "That was a textbook approach," and actually means it. You keep a log of every time someone underestimates you. It's digital, tucked inside your notes app, labeled altitude notes. Some days it reads like poetry. You don't have the upper body strength. She only got in because they needed numbers. You're too emotional for combat decisions. It keeps you sharp. Social media? That's a different story. One tweet from a classmate, "Diversity quota's gonna get us killed one day." It trends briefly in the microbubble of military Twitter. You don't respond, you just push harder. And eventually, they stop saying it to your face, sort of. At your commissioning ceremony, one of the academy's senior officers leans in during photos. "Let's see how far you take this." You smile politely, but inside you're already flying. By 25, you're certified on the UH-60 Black Hawk. By 27, you're in Afghanistan. But none of this journey, none of the push from Yazoo City to the cockpit, prepared you for the way they would look at you. Not the enemy, your own, even when you fly like thunder. It starts like this. A yellow envelope marked urgent on your cot. Inside, orders. Your rotation's been shortened. Effective immediately, your next mission is reassignment to stateside logistics. You stare at the paper, half expecting it to melt in your hands. 3 weeks ago, you executed a high-risk medevac with no errors. The after-action report even called your maneuvering decisive and tactically sound. So what's this? You head to the operations tent, holding the envelope like it might detonate. Inside, the commanding officer doesn't even look up. "Just following protocol," he says. "But why me?" "We're rotating people out. Nothing personal. Except everyone else who came in with you is still flying, and one just botched a landing near Fobi Salerno. Still, you're told to pack. 2 days later, you hear whispers. It was the higher-ups. Someone in the chain didn't like your style. Called it reckless confidence. Said you flew too independently. You make note of the phrasing. Independently? Is that what they call precision now? You're grounded, but only technically. Because the next morning, while you're overseeing supply manifests and ground transport rosters, word hits the base like a lightning bolt. Intelligence confirms a high-priority extraction op. A field unit pinned down near Jalalabad. Hostiles in the area, multiple injured, weather bad, rotor-worthy bad. They need the most experienced pilots available. Only 3 check the box. You're one of them. The operations guy calls you in. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't even mention the logistics reassignment. Just says, "We need your eyes in the sky." You pause. Then ask, "You sure you're okay with someone flying independently?" He doesn't laugh. But he doesn't stop you either. Pre-flight is fast. Your crew's the same as the last op. Co-pilot, still quiet. Gunner, eyes sharper. The medic from your first mission is back, and this time she slaps your shoulder like old friends. "You got us last time. Let's make it 2. As you lift off, something shifts. You don't feel like a pawn anymore. You feel like a damn piece on the board. One they tried to sweep aside but couldn't. The target zone is a hot LZ. Small arms fire, wind slicing through the gorge, and almost no visibility. You fly through it like you've done it 1,000 times. Because you have. And then, just as you're starting your descent, command radios in, "Mission abort. Too risky, ground team fallback initiated." But here's the thing. They're not falling back. They're trapped. You hear the panic in their calls. One soldier is bleeding out. Another is calling coordinates wrong. He's in shock. You can't just wait. You can't just hover. You key the mic. "Request override. We're going in." Silence. Then, "Denied." You pause. The gorge is narrowing. If you pull up now, you might not get back in. You key the mic again. "Override denied. Copy. We're still going." The co-pilot blinks. "You're disobeying a direct. I'm saving a life." It happens fast. You drop in low, angle the tail into the wind, and bring the bird down between rocks barely wider than the rotor span. Bullets hit somewhere behind you. Snap, crack, scream. But you hold. The team loads fast. You don't wait for a count. You know when it's time. You lift. And then you don't stop until you're halfway across the province. Back at base, there's no debrief, just silence. Then, 48 hours later, you're called into command. They don't reprimand you. They don't commend you either. Instead, they say, that was risky. Not the kind of example we want junior pilots emulating. You're stunned. Then they add, you're being moved to public relations for a stateside tour. Show the country what progress looks like. It's not punishment, it's packaging. They want to make you a poster, a symbol, a talking point. But they never wanted you to fly. You're polite, you nod, you take the orders. But inside, something else shifts. They can package all they want. The skies still remember what you did, and so do the soldiers who made it home. You're not even 30, and already your career has become a myth told in awkward PowerPoint slides. The PR tour starts with a bang. Local news in Colorado Springs calls you the black female pilot who dared to disobey. You sit in a TV studio wearing your dress blues, every medal in its place. The anchor mispronounces your name. Twice. But it's nothing compared to what happens backstage. A former enlisted airman, now a civilian producer, leans in with a smile and says, "You know, I didn't even think they let women like you fly birds like that. We're breaking barriers, huh?" You correct him politely, but something in you breaks. Not from what he said, but from the way he said it, like your entire career was a novelty act. The next stop is a veterans roundtable in Dallas. They sit you at the head, next to a former squadron commander who never served with you, but says he followed your story closely. He means the articles, the buzz, the spin. You speak for 15 minutes, no script, just facts. One woman, a teenage JROTC cadet in the back, stands to clap when you finish. She's wearing her hair natural, just like yours, regulation be damned. You nod at her. Afterwards, your handlers say your talk is trending on military Facebook. Someone even posted the old simulator footage from the academy, your first perfect flight. The comments? A mix of she's a badass and diversity hire with lucky instincts. You don't read past the first 20. Because right now, you're back in the air, but not in a Black Hawk. This time, it's a private turboprop, headed toward an East Coast base where they want you to speak to incoming cadets. You look out the window at the clouds curling under the wings. It's not the same. Nothing is. And then it happens. Turbulence. Not the mechanical kind. The kind that hits when you open your inbox and see a name you haven't read in years. Lont Samir Patel. The medic from Kandahar. Subject line, "Did you hear about Kayla?" You read the message 3 times. Kayla, the other medic from your crew, the one who slapped your shoulder and called you the storm with wings, she's gone. Suicide. 3 weeks ago. VA denied her trauma claim. Again. You land in silence. The speech to the cadets still happens, but something inside you has shifted. Again. This wasn't supposed to be the story. You were supposed to lift, to inspire, to represent. Instead, the walls feel thinner, the air heavier. Every smile feels rehearsed. You spend that night in your hotel room reading about Kayla's final weeks. She'd been trying to get treatment for nearly a year. You find her last social media post, a photo of her in uniform, captioned simply, "Did my country ever want me?" You don't cry, but you don't sleep either. The next day, instead of catching your flight, you rent a car and drive 400 miles to her hometown. You attend her vigil unannounced, sitting in the back, surrounded by people who didn't know the half of what she carried. You stand when her parents speak. Her mom reads a poem titled Flight Plan, and when she reaches the line, "She held everyone else together, but who held her?" Your hands are shaking. Because you know the answer. No one. That's when you make a choice. You're not flying for them anymore. Not the brass, not the headlines, not the camera crews. You're flying for the ones who didn't make it home, the ones they pretended to forget. You leave that vigil with a name stitched to your sleeve, Kayla. Not regulation, not approved, but it stays. When your CO sees it during your next talk, he raises an eyebrow. You don't explain, he doesn't ask, but everyone who sees it asks. And that's the point. The high school gym smells like varnish, popcorn, and floor polish, the universal scent of pep rallies and dreams too big for their zip codes. You're standing at the center, under the bleachers' humming lights, wearing your flight jacket and combat boots. It's the first time you've been back to Yazoo City since graduation. They invited you last minute. The principal called, voice tight with nerves and something else, something like pride she didn't want to name. "We thought you could talk to the girls," she said. especially the ones like you. You know what she meant. Now the bleachers are full. Mostly students, teachers, a few tired parents still in work uniforms. You spot 3 ROTC cadets in the front row. One is a girl, dark-skinned, broad-shouldered, maybe 15, sitting bolt upright with eyes so locked on you she might burn through your boots. You adjust the mic. "You'll ever hear what they called me on my first mission?" you ask. Laughter, murmurs. "They called me the photo op pilot, said I was just there to make command look inclusive." You pause. Let the silence bloom. "They stopped saying that after the second extraction, after the first windshield crack, after the third emergency descent, after the night one of their boys flatlined on the stretcher and I kept the tail rotor from slicing into the canyon wall." Now the silence is real. "I'm not here because I was born brave," you continue. "I'm here because I got tired of waiting for permission to fly." The crowd exhales. You don't mention the PR tour, or Kayla, or the medal still collecting dust in your drawer. You just talk about the nights you almost quit and the people who gave you reason not to. Afterwards, students line up for pictures. The girl from the front row doesn't smile. Instead, she hands you a folded paper. Inside is a pencil drawing of a helicopter with wings. Not blades, wings. Underneath, in block letters, "Keep flying for us." You don't cry in front of them, but you take the paper and fold it into your journal. That photo, someone caught it, your hand holding hers, the drawing between you, goes viral within a day. Not because it's flashy, but because someone on the school staff posts it with the caption, "She came back and she brought the sky with her." 3 days later, a senator reposts it, then a general, then a retired pilot you once idolized as a cadet. His comment, "Let's put her name where it belongs, in the syllabus." You laugh out loud in your hotel room. But then it happens. The Air Force Academy calls. They want you to speak at the commencement, not as a guest, as part of the curriculum. Turns out they've added a new module in the Advanced Leadership series. It's called Edge of Command, Decision-Making Under Fire. Your mission is one of the case studies. You read the course outline. They tell your story straight. The disobeyed order, the rogue extraction, the fractured windshield, the quiet defiance. And your name is there. No asterisk, no footnote. Just you. On the day of the lecture, you enter a classroom that once felt like a proving ground and now feels like something else. A launch pad, maybe. The cadets watch you walk in like you built the place. Halfway through the session, one student raises a hand and asks, "Did you ever feel like quitting?" You nod slowly. "Almost every time someone called me reckless, but I never flew to prove them wrong. I flew so the people depending on me could get home." Later, you stand in front of a wall of framed portraits, famous alumni, war heroes, astronauts. Your photo's not there, not yet. But you're not waiting, because above those frames there's a motto carved into stone: integrity first, service before self, excellence in all we do. You smile because now they're learning those words from you. You're sitting in a dim auditorium at the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, watching a new exhibit being unveiled. It's called Silent Engines, Women in Military Aviation. They didn't tell you your name would be part of it. The panel opens with the usual: Rosie the Riveter photos, black and white clips of WWII ferry pilots, grainy interviews with Vietnam-era nurses. The narrator's voice is steady, reverent. The room is filled with students, veterans, and a few high-ranking officers who probably approved your flight school waiver back in the day without even reading it. And then the screen changes. You see a helicopter, low, fast, tilted sideways in an Afghan gorge. The caption, Kandahar 2020. Unauthorized but successful extraction of wounded unit. A voiceover starts, then captain made a call that command couldn't, and didn't. You blink. There's no spin, no disclaimer, just fact. Afterward, a curator pulls you aside. She says, "We debated whether to use your story. There were people who thought it might send the wrong message." You smile. What message would that be? That following your conscience under pressure is sometimes more valuable than following the chain of command. You don't answer. You just walk to the photo on the wall, one taken moments after you landed that bird under fire. Your helmet's off. Your face is streaked with sweat and dust. And you're looking down at a stretcher, your hands steady on a Marine's chest. They caught the moment you became the pilot, not a pilot. It's all there. But what's not in the exhibit, What no one else knows is what you carry inside. Kayla's name still lives on your sleeve. The patch is faded now, edges curling, but you've never taken it off. When people ask, you simply say, "She's why I don't fly alone." Not everyone understands. That's okay. Back home, you fly civilian now, medevac routes, search and rescue ops, the occasional wildfire recon. You're still in the air, still chasing storm lines and golden hour edges. But the sky feels different now, not less dangerous, just more honest. The people you serve today, ranchers, hikers, kids in overturned school buses, they don't care about your past. They only care that you show up. And you always do. You're also mentored quietly. 3 young women, all of colour, in different stages of flight school. You don't post about it. You don't tweet. But every month they get a handwritten note from you, just like the one you wish you'd gotten once. Sometimes you're asked to speak again. Keynotes, panels, podcasts. You say yes only when it feels right. Your rule, no stage that only wants your pain without your point. You still get backlash. A recent op-ed called you an emblem of insubordination disguised as progress. Another said your presence in the academy syllabus was woke heroism gone unchecked. You printed that one, framed it, hung it in the hallway next to your certs, because they still don't get it. It was never about them. The real story, your story, isn't about being the first or the only. It's about showing up when no one thinks you will. It's about flying into a place where no one wants you and leaving it changed. At the next VA town hall, a young Air National Guard pilot stands up during Q&A and says, "I'm here because I read your name on a wall that used to only have men on it." You smile. "You're here," you reply, "because you earned it, same as I did." The applause isn't loud, but it's long. Back at home, in the quiet of your small apartment, you still sleep with your flight boots by the door. You still check the weather before bed. Habit, muscle memory. One night you look through the old journal. The altitude notes, every insult, every doubt, every slur and slight. You reach the last page, blank. And finally, you write, "They spat. But I soared. The rotors are still now. No dust storms, no crackling comms. Just the hush of memory and the weight of what you carried into the sky and brought back down again." You exhale, slowly. Let the noise fade. You've spent enough time flying under pressure, measured in hours and expectations, judged by people who never touched a throttle. But here in the stillness, you remember something simpler. Before all the medals, before the mission reports, before the headlines, there was just the dream. A girl in Mississippi, tracing clouds with a pencil, and even now, when the world tries to narrow you down to a symbol, a statistic, or a segment, you don't fight it. You just fly above it. That's what they never understood. You never flew to prove anything. You flew because the sky said you could. And when others couldn't follow, when they mocked or doubted or dismissed, you didn't descend. You didn't explain. You didn't wait. You just kept climbing. Now, for anyone watching, wondering if they belong, if the sky could possibly make room for them, hear this and hear it well. There is no permission slip for greatness, only your name, and a patch sewn quietly on your sleeve. Fly for her, fly for you, fly anyway.